Why does everybody want to lend to MSMEs? Well, this is a question that we should be asking. MSMEs have become the most sought after profile for lenders to disburse money. If you look at hard data, the delinquency rate or default rate for MSME loans has dipped from 4.4% to 3%. But the interesting part is the overall disbursement growth has been 24%. And you know where the fastest growth has been? It's been in the micro sector, a whooping 54% year-on-year growth. And the slowest has been in the medium segment, which is about 8%. How do you make sense of this data? Well, I think the interest is to serve customers who are actually generating employment, who are participating at the bottom of the pyramid in economic generation of value. MSMEs have been the blue-eyed boys in the lending space. New innovative products have been created just to address the needs of MSMEs. Gone are the days where MSMEs were not looked as a worthy credit profile. Well, it was initially because of lack of data, lack of reliance on the business models, understanding of how these MSMEs operate. But with digitalization, and businesses becoming more formal, and all thanks to UPI, because that's been one of the greatest enablers of data being streamlined in terms of revenues of MSMEs. We have a lot to learn from. There is so much data that today, as I said earlier, products have been created for MSME borrowers. And there is a renewed interest. 54% in the micro segment is not small. So there are 80 lakh active MSME borrowers today in the country. At a total of about 24 lakh crore has been deployed in this segment. And the more interesting part is even PSUs are part of this growth story. So let's look at how this has been made possible and what do we need to do to make sure that this trend continues. The first and the foremost thing that MSME lenders need to do is to strengthen their collection mechanism. Disbursement is always easy because there is always requirement of fund. We know about the credit gap that exists in this segment, but identification of borrowers, credit assessment, creation of products relevant to their needs is being taken care of and being done well. That's why we're seeing the growth. But how do we make sure that the default loan percentage stays as low as possible? As much as it is important for the borrowers to repay their loans, understand that their credit obligations have to be met, it is also important for the lenders to make sure that the ecosystem is ready. The collection team is strengthened with tools that make collections easier, more efficient, and the visibility of data is at a macro level is for the strategy team to create, but at a micro level for the field collector also. If you look at MSMEs, when they borrow, there is a purpose of loan that is being noted during the credit assessment process, during the loan application process. It is very important for NBFCs to monitor this use of funds because it will give them an assessment of how the funds are being deployed, whether it is adding value to the business of the MSME and how the repayments are going to be impacted. If the funds taken for one reason, for business reason, are deployed to personal use, then it will become very difficult for the MSME to accrue the benefit of this additional capital and increase the business and service the loan. If the lender and the borrower are working together, this checkpoint has been made as part of their process, then deployment of funds will happen for the purpose the funds have been borrowed. And it's been very evident. Lenders who are very participative in the journey of their borrowers, especially the MSME segment, and they're monitoring this end use of funds, have had a best track record of repayment. Their NPA percentages have been lower than 1%. And the 1% is just willful default. It's not default because the borrower is not making money. It's a willful default that needs to be tackled at a different level. So we talked about how collection systems have to be strengthened. The first and foremost is the emphasis on digital collections because it's the best and cost-effective way for any lender to collect money. Recurring collections using e-NACH mandates UPI have to be made a priority. Lenders can have this as a process of disbursement. So before you disburse, you make sure that you have a collection mechanism in place. It can all be made possible. A simple API connect between the payment service providers and the LMS of the NBFC can trigger an SMS to the borrower. Just by clicking a link, the borrower can register for the e-mandate and all the systems can be notified instantaneously. This is a very good tool to be deployed. Next is definitely the UPI, recurring collections UPI can be done, and this will help majority of the collections to get done on time. What needs to be done more is making communications a part of your collection strategy. It's not just the notifications that you send to the borrowers to apply for loans, but timely reminders will keep the borrowers always informed that they have to service the EMI on time. So sending out notifications via SMS, WhatsApp, in-app notifications if you have deployed a customer app for the borrower are very, very important. It has been observed that once you communicate better with the borrower, the repayments are also happening faster and swiftly. Lenders need to provide borrowers multiple avenues to service their debt obligations. If the recurring mandate does not fall through, immediate steps have to be taken to provide different avenues for the borrowers to just make the payment on the same date so that the default is avoided. What can be done is that because the systems are so integrated today, a communication can be sent via SMS to the borrower with a link to pay. If the borrower makes a request to collect the money, if you're doing cash collections at the last resort, then a proper collections app has to be there so that the field guys can use the collections app, go to the customer and collect the money, and the system reflects this in real time. Again, the borrower has to be kept informed for all of these transactions. This will create a trust between the borrower and the lender. And the final option now is how do you make sure that the loan doesn't go into default? The recommendation would be to keep the borrowers informed, work with them. So MSMEs are a very interesting segment, right? The risk is distributed across so many sectors and they're a growing segment. It's an opportunity for the lenders to acquire customers for a great lifetime value. Because once you finish one cycle of loan, you start with a smaller number, but then you can renew the loan every time the cycle ends and the needs of the borrower keep growing. So it's like investing in an enterprise, right? If you invest in an enterprise when it is small, when it grows larger, it requires more investment. So then you provide more debt and you create systems that enable them to be collected efficiently. The borrower will want to stick on to the lender that has helped him in the early days. It's human tendency. You want to work with people where you have trust and then you have a bond. So for MSME lenders, please create the bond. Please be more active with your borrowers and then help them grow. Their growth is your growth.